I'm sitting alongside the Oxford Canal in Cropredy, and I'd like to introduce my new collection, which is all about this village. It's called To the Future, Love Cropredy. I started writing it in 2019, and the only idea I had in my head was to talk to people and find out why they liked Cropredy and what they thought it might be like in 50 years' time. I'm going to read some of the poems from the book to give you a little sample, and the first one is called Naming Names. If I'd been asked to write a poem naming cream pot, cup and saucer, round bottom and backside, I may have imagined rotund posteriors shifting on dining chairs, crockery chatter, reaching for scones, the butter, the strawberry jam. Not in a month of Sundays would I have called to mind a medieval preaching cross, a way, a road, a lane, a close-kept secret, saved for those whose eyes have seen the signs. When I started work on the book, I had no idea that it was going to be so beautifully illustrated. I was very lucky to come across the art of Louise Regan, and her work adorns this book. So I'm now going to introduce Louise by asking her, Louise, why did you want to illustrate my book?
It was absolutely wonderful serendipity, really. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be a book illustrator, but it's an incredibly difficult thing to get into. And you happened to come across my work at Fairport when we had the pop-up gallery, and it's just been wonderful. Throwing me poems on all subjects, and it's really tested my artistic skills.
I had lots of conversations in this churchyard and became fascinated by the gravestones, which apparently are also, they double as chairbacks at Fairport time, when the breakfasters come in and lean against them to have their breakfast. When I was here, St George's flag was flying on the tower. It's not today. The churchyard of St Mary's. A row of shrinking headstones holding up the ancient earth, while others lean or lend their backs to visitors. The tiny gate left open for the breakfasters who sit connected to each other and the souls whose bones vibrate in tune at Fairport time. The pendulum is swinging, cogs and wheels advancing, conversations drifting through the grasses. Journeys spiral up and down as all the bells swing open, wagging tongues. And whether you believe or not, there's talk of ley lines through the hellhole. On the tower, St George's flag and weather vane respond to lifted spirits and prevailing wind. I was showing a copy of the book to someone, and their first comment was how joyful it is and how full of happiness. Oh, that's lovely. Is that intentional?
I mean, I've lived in Cropredy for 18 years now, and it is a lovely village, but I think when I was doing the illustrations and sort of researching, walking around, going to the places that you described, I appreciated what a lovely village it was. And I tend to I enjoy painting. So my heart and soul goes into any painting I do. And I'm really glad that shows.
Skeletons in the garden, Calverton House. A man and a woman, parallel, head to foot, uncovered one day, discovered by builders who cease and call the police. In come the experts, deep in the hole, examining bones. Put them back in my garden, I don't want to know. But the woman of 99, who lives nearby, says, I know what happened here. An affair. They both disappeared, and now I know where. 100 years on, and the laws don't apply, and there's nothing to prove it. That was then. Now the bones have gone, but the story lives on. One thing I was interested in finding out is which was your favourite poem to illustrate, or your favourite illustration that you did?
That must be Skeletons in the Garden. The story itself fascinated me. I went round to have a chat with a lady just to expand the story a little bit more, and trying to come up with a skeleton drawing that didn't look macabre was a real challenge. And then just imagining what the people looked like. I really enjoyed that one. And regarding the Oxford Canal poem, I was hunting high and low for an image, an idea for the illustration for that. Couldn't find anything that quite sort of hit the nail there. And then I thought, hang on, the bridge behind my mooring. And I looked and it was perfect. The idyllic view. So.
The Oxford Canal. Slip gently into undivided attention. Dance with harmony. Engage the deepest layers. Relax the heart. Soothe the mind and glide. Fluid in a connected state.
Heather, I was really interested when I was reading through the poems to come up with ideas. How do you come up with your ideas? You sort of go out and find people's stories. Is it a spontaneous thing, or do you plan that for a day that you are going to find sources for poems?
It's a difficult one to answer because it depends on what I'm doing. With this particular project, I just wrote about what I found. I planned to go to the Battle of Cropredy Bridge. I was very lucky that I could actually go to that because it's not on every year. So I knew I'd be there, but I didn't know how I would write about it. I met Joe in the churchyard, and I met others in the churchyard, and they told me things. And when they'd gone, I got my notebook out. And with Joe, actually, who the Skeletons in the Garden poem is about, the poems started to write themselves in the book because she's a really, really good storyteller. So that was fairly easy. Every poem is different because it's got a different inspiration. And in fact, the poem Naming Names was one of the last, in fact, I think it was the last poem that I wrote, but it feels like it should have been the first one. But I wanted to write about all those wonderful place names. When I first came to Cropredy to start writing this book, I knew nothing about the Fairport Convention annual festival. And it became quickly apparent that really I needed to include that in the book. And one of the things I did in order to write about it was to crowdsource a poem. So I asked lots of people to write on little post-it notes what the Fairport Festival means to them. And the poem I'm going to do now uses some of those phrases. In fact, all of them are in the book somewhere or other. This is called Fairporting is a Verb. Summer mornings. Walking the dogs through stubble fields. A glorious fiddler sound testing speakers. With the wind in the right direction, drifting up and down the canal, resonating along the towpath, snatches of madness, Lulu, status quo. Slip sliding in mud, rain washing contact lenses. The whole village buzzing, revellers mixing with graveyard spirits, in moments of merriment, candles burning at both ends. Flags flying high, extravagance of tie-dye, listening to music while cows wander by. Pubs pound to the local band sound, and the crowds just go with the flow. Earplugs in on Saturday night, volume up to maximum. Sunset at the end of a wonderful day, singing Who Knows Where the Time Goes. sitting in the bathroom, window wide open, listening to Petula Clark. Staying put for meat on the ledge. Simon Nichols' voice saying, "Thank you, Cropredy, and good night."
Heather, so what's your next poetry book? And can I illustrate it?
That's a bit cheeky. But I would love you to illustrate another book. Now I know the kind of work that you do, it makes me wonder whether I should actually bear that in mind and create a new poetry book. I've got lots of ideas I could publish, but I think I would need something special to be able to work with you again. The door in the garden wall. He was in the army. It was an Easter day. The Falklands War had started. The troops were on their way. He was with his daughters on the cut near Cropredy, enjoying leave from army life and time with his family. She was in her garden, digging the flower bed, the day he walked in through the door in her garden wall and said, "Our boat has broken down, and according to our map, there is a boatyard somewhere here." "Oh, what a gorgeous chap." "No boatyard here," she answered, this extremely good-looking man. "There's one nearby. Please do come in. I'll help you if I can. There's one at Fenny-Compton. It isn't far away." She rang them up. They fixed the boat. What more is there to say? Well, he was very grateful. "You've been so kind," said he. "Please come out for a drink tonight." "Oh, yes, I will," said she. His wife had died 2 years before, he told her as they walked between the door and the garden gate. The first time they had talked of anything but boats. "It's my intention to remarry." Without a breath, she told herself, "It's going to be me." That night in the Red Lion, they may as well have been alone as they swapped stories, and he was very keen. "Come to the boat and meet the girls. But won't they be in bed?" He woke them all. Meet Sarah, the woman he would wed. There's lots more to this story. I haven't told it all. Of love which bloomed between the gate and the door in the garden wall.